about to embark on the next Pioneer Knowledge Services Because You Need to Know, a digital resource for you to listen to folks share their experience and knowledge around the field of knowledge management and nonprofit work. If your company or organization would like to help us continue this mission and sponsor one of our shows, email byntk@pioneer-ks.org.
Hi, ich bin Liesa, gebürtige Großburgwedlerin, kleines Dörfchen neben Hannover in Deutschland. Ich bin vor kurzem nach Brooklyn, New York City gezogen und ein absoluter Wissensmanagement-Enthusiast und möchte heute etwas mehr über dieses Thema berichten. Hi, I'm Liesa. As you've heard, I'm not an English native. I'm from Germany, a tiny town called Großburgwede. Don't try to pronounce it. It's difficult. It's close to Hanover, and I recently relocated to Brooklyn, New York City. I would like to talk a little bit about that. Once you embrace your true self, your true nature, it absolutely torpedoes you into a sphere you've never known you could reach before. I can talk about knowledge management hours and hours and art.
What's your favorite medium in art?
Medium and art. I'm very old school, even though I embrace technology, but I do love a good canvas and some acrylic or oil.
So are you saying you're an artist, or you just like to look at art?
No, I am a full-blood artist, yeah. My entire life, ever since I can remember, art plays a big role. And also with regards to knowledge management, I believe it's very important to have like that creative side and come up with new innovative solutions.
You're basically walking down the path of having the ability to see. And by that, I mean have a vision, have an image. Going back to creating, I think there's a key ingredient to creators is that they can perceive, they can envision, they can see things in a very broad way.
Definitely. It helps a lot because it's like you don't have just black and white, you have the whole color palette that allows you to see further and also to see more in the obvious. I think it's very easy when you, for instance, look at any picture, there's always a message behind the picture. There's always more to it. It's not just we use the color green, blue, and yellow. There are meanings to the colors, to the way you paint it, to your brush stroke. It tells an entire story.
You're really thinking as one artifact or one piece of artwork as having a multi-dimensional representation.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely, yeah.
So I'll have to say that most receivers of the art, I'm guessing, most of the folks that are looking or absorbing the art, however that is, do you think they'll all get the multi-dimensions, or is it, what percentage of people get the art? Let's ask that. Because I've been to a few shows, right? And and I'm like, I don't, it's like, so tell me.
I hear you. I guess it depends very much on the person, how you approach art. If you just approach art, you want to have something nice hanging in your living room. Yeah, no, forget about it. But if you see more behind the art and want to learn the story or what did the artist mean, what's like the circumstance of it, like when was it created, then it's different. But it's always like with what kind of expectation you look at it and also your background you have, right?
Does a good receiver of art have to bring a certain element of commitment to understanding?
Curiosity, I would say.
Curiosity.
Yes, you need to be open-minded.
I think that's the bridge. You said this, that there's a correlation or a association between artistic or creativity, art, and knowledge management. So is the curiosity the bridge between those two? Is that the bond of art and knowledge management, is being curious?
This is very, very Yes. And I think without curiosity, there is no drive, there is no will to learn. And a big part of knowledge management is ongoing learning. And if you're not curious about something, you won't.
Right. So that leads us into our discussion today, at least the initial, is that we're talking a little on communities, culture, cross culture. Can you tell me where cross culture fits into this, what we just talked about, the art of framing art, of being curious? What's the advantage or disadvantage in an organization that does not perceive their function of building a community as a little bit of an art form?
Well, I think the biggest difficulties are very stiff systems, processes, settings,
Mm,
little islands, lack of communication. When we don't have that, we don't give the people an opportunity to learn from each other and also learn about like their cultural background, their experiences. The US has a different
mm,
working culture than Germany, for instance, or London, or
mm-hmm.
you need to create a space and an environment where the cultures can come together, especially nowadays where our teams are like so diverse and so remote. And it's a key component.
All right. Well, I can hear how that adds to the value of the community, the cohesion, the understanding of each other's where they're from and what they are like. But how does an organization say that's important to us too, and this is how we're going to resource it? You can say, "Oh yeah, we're the cross culture thing is something but they don't resource the time or resources to make sure somebody's approaching it or at least looking and exchanging and developing that bridge."
Yeah, I think it's quite difficult. I would see it as a task with HR or like when they start building out a diversity, inclusion process, strategy, framework. But I think we are at the beginning of taking all of that into consideration
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
painting the bigger picture because everybody is different and is unique. And when you add the culture to it, you can't have like a one solution fits all. It's important for everybody you work with also to understand where the people come from and how to collaborate. For instance, I've been working with a lot of Indian people in my last job.
Mm,
It took a while for us to understand our cultures, our way of communication, how we approach
mm,
problems. Germans are very straightforward. Indians were like, from what I've learned, less straightforward and very, very polite. So
mm-hmm.
we had to find a way and a common understanding. Well, I'm generalizing here, but obviously it depends always on the
Yeah.
person. But
Yeah.
the point that I'm trying to make here is you need to give room to understand or even give room to present their culture to everybody in the company. Have like some standard meetings. Today we're learning about India, working in India. Today we're learning
Right.
about this.
Yeah. Well, it ends up being a little bit like show and tell from grade school, right? You have to have some space to talk about who you are.
Exactly.
So I want to pull up the definition of cross cultural from Cambridge Dictionary. Pretty simple, involving two or more different cultures and their ideas and customs. So what's not there is that there's nothing about values. Let's think of those pieces that represent a culture and consider that an organization would be best served if they gave space for building that ability to recognize, I wouldn't say go as far as appreciate, but recognize and be aware of other people's cultures and how it all works.
It would be vital, actually, and it would definitely enhance collaboration, communication, and efficiency ultimately, because everybody obviously wants to feel valued and heard, and your culture is like a very, very big part of it. And if it's overlooked, it's kind of you're ignoring parts of that person.
Can you give me an example of where you've seen this impact others by not addressing anything with culture? Do you have an example of?
Well, I have experienced it traveling around, living in different countries. I lived in the Netherlands and Spain, London, and now New York. I see it even with myself in daily life that I bring my German culture at times here, like, hey, the green is light, I
Mm-hmm.
will walk. No, you better don't, otherwise the car is going to hit you here. So, I mean, that's basically a metaphor for bringing a culture in and understanding it, valuing it, and finding like a
Yeah.
common ground and learning from both sides. Yeah.
Common ground. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like that because the common ground
Yeah.
is really, I think, the end state, right? That's where we want to get to. At least that we're not defending our differences. We're just finding
Hmm.
the common ground so we can get stuff done
Yeah.
in a better way, right? What I want to hear is if I'm a small business person, a small nonprofit, mid-size,
Yeah.
whatever, that has yet to figure out what the steps are to really looking at cross-cultural.
Hmm.
What would be your best advice to a nonprofit that says, oh, you want this resource, you want this book? Is there anything that you can bring that would add value to somebody listening?
I would say the most important thing in approaching anything, and also with regards to cross-cultural collaboration and communication, is to involve the people and ask questions, because that's the best way of
Mm.
learning what is needed and brainstorm in a team and involve people and not follow a top-down approach, be on the same level with everybody and find common solutions.
Okay.
Because once somebody is involved in, like, is it either getting training material or presenting your culture, it
Mm-hmm.
could be anything. But when they're like part of the team and of a collective decision making with regards to that, we are already like a step further
Mm-hmm.
and starting while doing our due diligence, our research, already the process.
So it sounds like the easy first step, if you're an organization of 20 to 50 or
Hmm.
100, maybe do a complete distribution email out to the whole list and say, look, we're thinking about cross cultural, or, maybe provide a definition in email. Who in the organization has any spark about this, any passion, anyone have any kind of oomph to help us try to start understanding it as an organization? Very organic. It's just like, hey, we're all trying to figure this out. We're not telling you what to do. We're just trying to discover and learn.
Exactly. And I think that's overlooked most times. And that leads to
Mm,
frustration because somebody somewhere who might not understand the full picture implements XYZ, and the employees basically aren't happy with it. And that's not helpful. And I believe collective wisdom, knowledge, or ideas so much worth in creating an ecosystem where everybody feels heard, valued, and good ultimately, right?
well, that would be a place to work. That sounds like a good place to go. Let's do that. The sad thing is, I don't think most organizations have that.
True, true. I'm seeing it actually with the nonprofit I'm working right now. It's amazing. We're growing quite fast, valuing like any input from anywhere. We created a space, we called it think tank, where everybody can just like also drop ideas randomly, like, hey, how about that? How
Mm-hmm.
about that? And start a discussion
Mm-hmm.
about it. And I think that's the best way of working together and growing together.
That's a very open culture.
Hmm.
Back in my day, it would have been called the good idea box, or an actual physical box
Yeah.
where you put in little slips of paper with your ideas, which at least 12% of those were usually something you don't want to repeat in public. People just
Yeah.
voicing frustrations of some sort.
Mhm.
But what you're saying is that if you can give a community the ability to communicate freely and share ideas,
Yeah.
then you're already a step ahead.
Most definitely, yes.
So, what's stopping organizations from doing that?
I think multiple things. First of all, most organizations, traditional ones especially, are very much set in their procedures,
Yeah.
structures. Knowledge hoarding
Mm-hmm.
is also a big part. Yeah, let me even go back a step to our educational system. We learn not to make mistakes.
Mm.
We learn that we have to always reach a certain grade, points, and mistakes are bad. And I think this kind of mindset also translates to people sometimes being afraid to communicating openly, pitching ideas. Well, we have the saying there are no stupid questions. There are also no stupid ideas, I like to believe. But to get that out of what we've learned or to unlearn that and be open about any transparent and communicate it is very hard. And then we're kind of like touching the change process. How do we implement that? How do we motivate people? How do we actually make sure that they know, like, whatever they say, it's appreciated, it's valued, and there are like no consequences or anything. If I tell my boss, oh, well, sorry, that process here doesn't work well, I might be afraid that I could get fired or that my boss isn't happy. You need to be able to accept criticism in a way as well.
Those are all definitely beneficial things, but they're all affected by the lack of trust. So if there is no trust in that organization, everything you just talked about will, flatline. There's no room for it to even start to grow. So we got to look at the leaders and the organizational culture to even see if this stuff would fly. Wouldn't you do like some sort of quick assessment of the culture just to get a pulse before taking anything stepwise?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
It's always an assessment. You need to understand the culture, the processes, what the people actually think, what leadership does, and what leadership says. So there are multiple levels to it.
All right. Well, that's a bridge for another day. Let's jump over now to where we were going to lead this whole talk of building community to the practice of Scrum, SCRUM. If you're not in the world of software, you may not be aware of this, and it's a process, right? I mean, would you just describe it as it's a business process to innovation?
Well, it's kind of like a framework, like a structure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's incomplete purposefully, and Scrum basically helps to create value, to foster and use the collective intelligence due to a lean structure, which also builds on empiric knowledge while working, while doing project, for instance. We're kind of like always taking the lessons learned to adjust, to pivot, to increase our efficiency and be better.
From my experience with the U.S. Army, from what I sat on the sidelines working with some technology folks, Scrum was an iterative process, meaning they just keep touching base and see what changes have to happen. And, it's just this constant connection with the people doing the work to have a discussion, right? Where are you at? What's going on? What's the problems? So let me just read from Atlassian.com, big software outfit, on what is Scrum. So this is from their website. Scrum is an agile project management framework that helps teams structure and manage their work through a set of values, principles, and practices. And they go on to say where it gets its name from. Yeah. Because you and I had this discussion. Where the heck did this come from? So much like a rugby team, where it gets its name, training for the big game, Scrum encourages teams to learn through experience, self-organize while working on a problem, and reflect on their wins and losses to continuously improve. So it sounds like Scrum could just be an operational force across an enterprise if they actually adopted it. In order to learn, and that's what they call out here, continuous learning, continuing improvement, takes resources. You have to create space and provide the resources in order for your people to have an opportunity to learn.
Definitely.
Okay. So what's the biggest problem have you seen with Scrum? Have you worked with a team directly with Scrum in play?
100% Scrum. It was like half Scrum. Yeah. Sadly, that's what you see most of the times. When you really want to do Scrum, you have to comply with the values, with the pillars of Scrum, and you can add to that. But if you take parts of it away, then it's not Scrum anymore. So it was kind of like a hybrid wannabe Scrum, let's call it like that.
Okay. Yeah. Just so everybody can get it here. So Scrum.org is the source for all this Scrum stuff, and there is a guide there. So from what I understand, you can go light or you can go heavy as far as the construct and obeying all the rules and the procedures. But you're saying that you could go a little skimpy and go light and at least get some goodness out of this.
Yeah, but you won't get the full value of Scrum. I would say if you want the full value of this agile framework, you have to be committed to the values. You have to adopt the pillars of Scrum and really follow that process. Whatever you add to it, like is it knowledge management, is it design thinking? That's even like an enhancement. But if you just pick parts of it, you won't get the full.
Do you see it as strictly a software development practice, or is this for anybody?
This is for anybody.
Okay.
Scrum is basically a skeleton where you can build around. And it doesn't necessarily have to be used for software development. It's wildly used in that area, but you can use it basically in any discipline. You can Scrum your life. When you plan your moving, for instance, you can use...
Right. Well, here again, it's that project management framework. It's for a project. It's not just an operational component forever. We just do this. It is really designed to be a start, middle, and finish concept. Yeah. From the scrum.org, this is what the founder of it says. First introduced to the world 1995 as a better way of team collaboration for solving complex problems. The Scrum framework is fairly simple, being made up of a Scrum team, product owner, Scrum master, developers, and they all have accountabilities. They work to identify the who, define what the roles are for the who, and then say, you're responsible for X and make sure it gets done. So you're really parsing out who's doing what and who's responsible for what.
Yeah. And a big focus also on self-management, which I believe also that the self-management accountability helps foster teamwork as well and getting your tasks done more efficient.
Well, let's slide on over now to the thing that makes anything work when you're dealing with humans, and that's language. Language and comprehension and understanding, and your favorite term and mine is cognitive linguistics.
Drop that. Big one.
Drop that drop that at your next family reunion or your Oh, so what are you working on now? I'm working on cognitive linguistics. Yeah. Tell us what that's all about.
It's basically an interdisciplinary field. It kind of like explores and looks at the relationships of human language, how our mind works in combination with it, how our embodied experience fuel into that. It's kind of like how we understand languages, the structure and the cognitive processes around it. Well, we do have like distinctive language models when it comes to that and structures, how everything interconnects.
Okay.
It all basically comes back to our cognitive perception and memory.
It's all on the receiver, right? So if you have no cognition, you're not going to get it. The definition, I want to pull this out because this is just interesting. So Merriam-Webster, the definition of cognitive science, so that would be the bigger picture, interdisciplinary science that draws on many fields in developing theories about human perception, thinking, and learning. So those are the three main legs: perceiving, thinking, and learning. So it's all cognition. It's all in the brain. It's you understanding the world. And the linguistics piece is just the straight up the language piece. So basically you could boil it down and say it is the understanding of language so you can learn.
Which is a vital part in knowledge management, right?
Well, it seems to be a vital part of just being a human, doesn't it?
Also, as well, yeah.
That really is an overstatement, I know, but I mean, we start learning language as a baby, and we just keep building from there. It never stops. So the cognitive part of it, I get. So how do you build a better cross-cultural organization and or team considering the language barriers that are naturally going to happen? How do you build cognition in a team?
That's a very good question. I believe one part, circling again back to art,
Ah,
work with more visual aid. Sometimes, especially when it comes to languages, it gets very difficult to translate. Believe me, I know some things you just simply can't translate, or somebody will perceive them very, very differently.
differently, yeah.
Exactly. And I think we can overcome that if we have visual aid or even storytelling with stories that are commonly known
Hmm.
to help transmit a message. If it's just like purely you have your text, your guideline, whatever, and you translate it, take it from one to
Yeah,
another
yeah.
language, normally speaking, it doesn't work that well due to the cognition perception of the other person. I have different associations with this word, or different experiences in general. So I believe visual or visualization in general is a very, very vital part in helping overcoming that barrier.
Well, you bring up an interesting point that I think is easily forgotten in the business of doing business is that, and this is my correlation to this, is in the world of instructional design.
Mhm.
They build and transfer knowledge products to the student, in this case, in a multimedia or a multimodal function or way
Mhm.
because not everybody learns the same way. So if we could just build that paradigm in every corporate structure that says, we all know that not everyone learns the same way. Therefore, we will do this, to compensate different learning modes and to not leave anybody out. So what you just said about the graphics, right?
Mhm.
In one of my lifetimes, I served in the U.S. Army. They had these graphical training aids that were about everything, because the less you can make it language dependent, the easier the transition or transfer will happen.
Totally, totally agree.
So, how does an organization start thinking about how to do that?
I would say they should have a look at how our traffic system works.
Okay.
Everybody knows the major signs, stop signs.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge is to break everything down to its core, make it as simple as possible. Our traffic signs are a great example for everybody gets not to drive or when to drive or where to be where.
Yeah. Go that way, not that way.
Exactly.
Hello. Yeah.
Exactly.
What we're actually wrapping around the axle here is the definition of what I've often referred to as wayfinding. The wayfinding is the ability of an animal to orient itself and to navigate.
Mhm.
So wayfinding is as simple as that can be. And I'm going to give you a prime example of recently I got pulled for jury duty. Okay. So I report to the courthouse on Monday, and I've not been here before.
Mhm.
This is the way you create the wayfinding method. You have to act like you've never been here before, and what do you need to see in order to find your way
Mhm.
to navigate? I went through security, and they said, "Oh, go down this hall." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm walking down this big long hall, and about the time I'm consciously thinking, "Okay, where do I go?" I look up, and there's a sign say this way. Oh, great! And I go that way, and then I go for a while, and I'm starting to get that idea. Okay, so how much farther? Oh, this way, another sign. When I got to the place and I got signed up for jury duty, I said, "Hey, by the way, who put all those signs up to get me here?" She said, "I did." I said, "Congratulations. You are a good wayfinder planner because most organizations don't perceive that somebody's going to come here with zero knowledge, zero experience, and just assume they're going to know how to get anywhere." Now, another case, I've been in some hospitals where it's a nightmare. They actually pay people to stand there with a little schmuck on saying, "I'm your helper," because that's the intuitive knowledge. That's the tacit knowledge that they can't figure out how to make signage. So they just hire people to stand there and answer your questions. Why is it so hard for organizations to get their hands on?
Well, I think I'm not free from it myself. When you're an expert in an area, right? You tend to speak in your language, what you're used to, and to take really that big step back and look
Mm,
at it like you have literally no clue what it is
hmm.
sometimes very difficult to do. And maybe also a little part of your ego is playing a role in there as well.
True. And some of it may just be
Mm,
unconscious, right?
definitely. Yeah.
You just assume everybody can figure that out, or you just assume, well, that's easy. I mean, what's so hard about that? You'll find your way.
Hmm.
So there's got to be an even balance.
Yeah.
There's got to be some thought. There's got to be some conscious effort. Is this actually a job? Do you know if this is like a job? Can you be a wayfinding expert? You would think that would be an easy job to
I guess
do.
we just created
But
a new job. It's
exactly.
needed. It's needed.
All right. I am going to Job Finder, and I just put in Wayfinder, and nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, what? Oh, wait a minute. That's just Arizona. What the heck? I want U.S. All right. Well, let's just pick Florida because they need a lot of help in Wayfinder. Nothing. All right. Well, maybe it's not a job. I don't know. It would seem to be an easy thing to sell
Oh.
to any organization because you almost have to be an outsider. It's easier to come in an organization and start shooting holes in it. Well, you don't have, obvious things. But if you were grown and raised and worked there for the last 10 years, you just don't even think about that
No,
stuff.
you don't see it anymore because you're used to it, and everybody who comes in new or just visits is like, oh, why do you do that? Why
Yeah.
is that?
You
Right? And this is so valuable.
because it's self-guiding. If I can make one effort that will affect everybody at one cost, that can make them independently mobile, independently making choices and navigating themselves, then there's no other resources required from us to get them where they need to go. It's economical. It makes sense. The last thing I'll say on the wayfinding, because you got me started on this, and it just bothers me how most organizations don't even consider it. In the U.S. Army, you could
Mm.
not be in a building or a room that did not have an escape picture next to the door. In case of fire, hurricane, tornado, blah, blah, blah. People come in and out of buildings all the time. It doesn't mean you know where anything is. Some organizations will say a little bit of housekeeping, the exit's up here, the bathrooms are back there, to get you oriented to the space. But just something as simple as you are here, the exit's that way, gives immediate navigational capacity to the individual that wouldn't be there any other way. Okay. Well, I'm doing all the talking. This is your show. All
Well,
right. So
I love that point. You have no idea how many times
yeah.
I got lost somewhere or couldn't find my way. Look at airports. Also very, very nice example.
Mm-hmm. And those are great examples, getting back to your language barriers thing, that they have to rely on icons because you can't have every language on a sign. And you can't assume everybody knows one language.
Definitely.
Well, I guess you can assume that, but it would be a bad assumption. So before we roll out, your job is to define for us your definition of knowledge management.
Well, my definition of knowledge management, sure. I would see this as a strategic program initiatives that kind of like helps transformation and change. And it's mainly about like an inclusive, multidisciplinary, cross-functional communication, collaboration, and sharing of knowledge. And it's used through the use, reuse, and creation of that knowledge and information
Mm-hmm.
to basically support and enhance operational processes, service quality, make life basically easier for everybody.
Just trying to make things easier and better. That's what we do.
Yeah, I love that.
Saving the organization some dollars instead of redoing something they just spent money on 3 years ago and then saying, oh, we need to do that again. And nobody's like, well, didn't we just do that? Don't we have records? Oh, no, we got to hire somebody to do that now.
Oh,
All right.
reinventing the wheel is big these days. I know.
All right, my friend. Well, thanks for being here today. Any last words of wisdom from the land of Germany?
From the land of Germany. Ooh. Nothing particular comes to my mind, but with regards to culture in a negative way, we have a saying, what the farmer doesn't know, he won't eat. That kind of translates to if you're not used to something, if some change is happening, it's like, oh, I won't touch it. I won't get into it. I'm afraid it might kill me, you know? Yeah.
My wife and I have had this discussion. It's like, who do you think the first person was that thought eating an oyster would be a good thing? All right, my friend. Well, thank you, and thank you for being here and sharing all you know.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to Because You Need to Know, the reference podcast in knowledge management. My name is Soni Tonemi. As an art administrator, Because You Need to Know has been my go-to podcast and has helped me hone my management skills. Please consider sponsoring the podcast with your business.
Just finished our latest Because You Need to Know, a public service of Pioneer Knowledge Services. Please join us on LinkedIn and find us at pioneer-ks.org.